All right. IBAI on Mad Lions scrims. Do you want me to tell you about how our scrims against the Asians went? Should I tell you or not? 0-17. Bro, I love this. This gives me some good hope for the West. Should I tell you or not? 0-17. We didn't win a single map against T1, Gen G, or Top Esports. We played against LNG. We played against Top Esports. We played against Gen G. We played against T1. And we played against Weibo. We didn't win a single map. Look, now I can spoil things for you. Supa in scrims against Gen G went 10-4. It was the only game where I said, wow, we actually fought here. We had a late game against LNG where we made it to minute 40 or 39. And I'll tell you more. So people can be shocked. All the Western teams are in the same situation except FlyQuest, who didn't play against China or Korea. G2 won't go 0-18. But seeing the messages they've sent, maybe 10 to 40 or 8 to 40, of course, that's what Melzit. That's also why Melzit says what he says. Okay, now this is kind of interesting because I've heard differently. I've heard that TL and G2 have actually had like positive win rate versus like the Chinese and Korean teams that they have been scrimming. So like the lower tier Chinese and Korean teams. But maybe this is true. I obviously don't know. I'd like to know how Fnatic is doing in scrims against the top Asian teams. As much as I say this, our scrims against NA were very even against FlyQuest. There was one day we won 3-3 against Team Liquid. Another day we went 2-3. And against PSG and Plains teams, they were also very even, and we even won. And by the way, for fans of LATAM, we beat Movistar R7 10-1. Okay. We also scrimmed against Fnatic and G2 in the last few days, where we lost to both, but obviously it was much more even than against the Asians. I think we went 1-4 and 2-3. Okay. Compared to not winning a single map against Asia, obviously the difference is huge. It's huge. Before the league grand finals, we scrimmed twice against Fnatic and won 2 out of 6, and won 6 out of 8 maps. Sorry. Fnatic and Mad Lions, when they train, you can tell they're very evenly matched. Even in games against G2 where they beat you in all of them. Even in games where G2 where they beat you in all of them. Okay. Yeah, it's just the translation. But against Asia, T1 beat us in 2 games by 14 minutes. Nice. You play against Asia, the difference is huge. And then you play against FlyQuest, as I mentioned earlier. And in scrims, you play 6 games and end up tied 3-3. I mean, you're there. 1 game they win, another game you win, 1 they stomp you. But the feeling is like, wow, okay, this is playable. Just like against Team Liquid. I repeat, they are scrims. And now you'll tell me, IBAI, that's not an official match. Okay, it's not an official match, but in official matches, we lose. And in training too. So what a coincidence that the team that won the LEC is the one who wins the most scrims, and the team who wins Worlds is the one that wins the most scrims. I mean, the other thing is like, you guys lost to GAM. I'm just saying, like, you guys lost to GAM. Just remember, like, okay, sure. That's why I also think that Melzet in his statements, which may be more or less well received, was referring to that, right? When you're training and there's such a gap compared to the Asian, there comes a moment when you think, wow, in this World Cup, which I repeat does not justify losing to GAM, it seemed to me like a very tough game to digest. And in fact, I'm still tilted since Monday. I mean, it's crazy. We're almost at Saturday. It's kind of crazy. At this point, the only reason Asian teams even scrim Western ones is to stomp some games and improve morale. I mean, I think that partly it's that, but it's also just to like, just lightly scout the teams. Try to judge their level. But yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where this is just what you hear every single year, that teams get stomped. But that's kind of why I like the FlyQuest approach. Honestly, that's why I like the FlyQuest approach. So for people that don't know, what FlyQuest ended up doing this year was something different than what we normally see from Western teams. When FlyQuest went to Worlds, their main way to try to qualify like out of Swiss stage and to try to go far in this tournament is to bring a lot of like unique comps, unique strategies, and they're not scrimming against the Asian teams to show any of them. Like, they're not going to concern themselves with like trying to get to the same level as the Asian teams when it comes to like macro and stuff like that. They're going to try to just play their own game, and they've been exclusively scrimming Western teams. Now, obviously, there's pros and cons, but if you look at their games versus Hanwha Life, I think if they played standard, let's say they scrimmed Asian teams, they tried to get to the same level as Hanwha Life when it comes to like basic macro, playing the meta, all this type of stuff, I think they just lose 2-0 every single time. So it is an interesting approach. Like, it is, like, people will say it's a little bit defeatist because it's like, oh, they're so good that we can never beat them at their own game, but that might just be realistic. So that is a different approach from FlyQuest that they've been trying at this World Championship, and we'll see how it turns out. And they're bringing just champions that other people haven't played a lot against. So they played a lot of Casio, they played a Mumu twice, they've played Nunu, they played Olaf top. They had a Darius game that they played. Like, they're trying to play non-standard, come up with comps that make sense in the context. And when you look at the games that they played, I think that those games actually had like pretty winnable game states consistently. Normally Asian teams are shit at finding good champions. Yeah, I've talked to people about this. Like I remember talking to like Rush about this when he was playing with KT. I talked to Rush about this, and he said that in general, like Asian teams, like Asian players just have this like rigidity in their mindset where they like really need champions to be proven to them to be good, rather than, and I think it's gotten better over the years with like, you know, solo queue tracking and stuff like that, but they need a champion to be proven to be good, or they need like the best player in their region to play something in order to iterate. It's almost like the way that players kind of view it is they're always trying to be like the best player in their region, and the way to be the best player in their region is they look at whoever's the current best and they try to like match their level when it comes to like all the things they do well. So they'll try to like break down everything that they do, where it's like, okay, this guy is a really good Lee Sin. Why does he play such a good Lee Sin? And then they try to match him in all these facets. And then once they get there, then they feel like they have the freedom to be creative, like Canyon, for example. It's a lot of just like trying to copy whoever's the best, and like kind of viewing your placing at like just having like the view that it's like, okay, this is my placing that shows that I am like worse than this guy right now, and the way to get better is to just work harder, and I just need to work harder than him, and then eventually I'll be able to catch up and beat him. This type of mentality. I mean, this is an old conversation we had, but that was the discussion pretty much. SK and BDS finished higher than Fnatic and Mad, but BDS was something like 7-2. They should have been in Worlds, not Fnatic or Mad. Well, I mean, I think Fnatic making it to Worlds 100% is deserved. They're the clear second best team the entire year. I will say though, like BDS not playing against Mad is pretty sad. This mentions how Summit didn't want to play certain champs because Keen doesn't play them. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of like how it works. It's like, oh, does that guy play that champ? Okay, well, if he doesn't play that champ, then I'm not going to play it. But I think that League is a game where the thing about League is like there's so much creativity in the game. There's so much potential creativity in the game because the game changes so much. Like, for example, right now, I'm doing it for my own solo queue grind. So like, this is my account. Like, obviously don't get to play that much because we're co-streaming. But this is my account right now. I've only played 62 games this season. My rank is rank 906, which is like the equivalent because they nerfed everything down. They made it so there's way less challengers and grandmaster players whenever early season. So it's like the equivalent of like grandmaster games. How many challengers are there? There's 22 challengers, and grandmasters there are. Ooh, we got some grandmasters now. So grandmaster normally has like 700 people, and then challenger has 300 people. So right now there's only 114 grandmasters, and there are, or actually no, there's probably something like 100 grandmasters, and then there's 20 challengers. So that's what's going on. So right now they've changed the game, right? They nerfed a lot of champions, and trying to figure out what's good in the game just takes a lot of time, where you just have to be like creative with builds and stuff like that. And I think that it's very hard for people to realize like when the breakpoint happens with champions and items that makes something else better than it. Because a lot of times when you look at champions, like for example, the Leandri's builders, where it's like Brand, Zyra, Udyr is a big one that just got nerfed, Lilia, these types of champions, it's like every time you see the Leandri's nerfs, which has happened, and like champions have been nerfed, you look at these and you try to contextualize them against the item, where it's like, how much is this going to actually hurt this item? But you need to be trying to compare it to like every other item in the game that other people are going to be building, because it's not really a comparison between like, is Leandri's like good compared to what it used to be? Is it still like viable compared to what it used to be? It's when the other champion hits their item, when the other guy has Sundered Sky or Eclipse, or this like the assassin has his Profane Hydra, or you know, Ghostblade is what a lot of people are going. When they hit those items, what like am I strong enough to fight him? Like is my item, does my item justify like being built? Do I get to fight him? Am I actually stronger than him? And I think that this is the part that is really hard to know. You know, you can look at the numbers all day, but it's very hard to actually know whether you're correct or not when you're making these types of decisions in games. So right now, I'm like, if I had more time, I just need to try more champions. Like I was playing Udyr. I think Udyr is kind of dead to me. And if you look at these stat sites and you look at like Diamond Plus, Udyr used to be the #1 jungler in the game by win rate. Look at where he is now, bro. 49. Like, he's down to 35th from the top. Briar is the worst champion in the game. I've tried to make this champion work. It completely sucks. But like, for me, one champion that I think is really interesting that could be the best is Karthus. I think Karthus has a chance to be the best jungler in the game right now because of the fact that comparatively Blackfire Torch didn't get nerfed, right? So if you look at Blackfire Torch, and Blackfire Torch used to be straight up worse than Liandry's. This is something that I was early on this. If you remember my streams from early in summer, I was one of the first guys that was like, Blackfire Torch sucks compared to Liandry's. After they nerfed Blackfire Torch, you should just go Liandry's instead, right? Like, you should go on like Karthus, for example, or like these other champions. You should just go Liandry's Rylai's on Brand. You should go Liandry's Rylai's on Zyra. And there was still like a bit of people that were building Blackfire Torch because Blackfire Torch was so OP when it was first released. If you look at Blackfire Torch, they nerfed it a little bit on 14-19, but they didn't nerf it that much. And if they didn't nerf it that much compared to what they did to Liandry's, and Liandry's is the main point of comparison, right? And this is the item you're comparing it to. And if you look at 14-19, that's where Liandry's went from 90 AP to 70 AP. So it only lost 10 AP comparatively. It only lost 10 AP. It lost 5 haste. And then the Baleful Blaze tick got reduced here. And then the base damage got increased. So it's like it made champions like Karthus better than the other AP junglers because he was one of the best Blackfire Torch users, but yeah, he just wasn't that good because he got direct nerfs. So this is the whole game that you're always trying to do. So my point here is that it takes like a massive amount of people to actually figure this out. Like, figure out what's good on every single patch. And it changes so frequently that there is so much room for creativity in this game. Like, up until Canyon started playing Skarner a lot, how many people would have actually played Skarner? Like, Kanavi was playing it, but it was good on that patch. Like, the Skarner was good on that patch. It was probably good all of summer. Even when it had 3 less AD, it was probably just viable the entire time when everyone was playing tank junglers. When everyone was playing Maokai and people were playing, Sejuani all the time, but people didn't have the experience of playing Skarner. They're like, is it worth picking up that champ? And the way that people view it is like, if they don't know how good a champion is, a lot of people don't want to put in the time investment to learn a champion that might not be useful. They don't view it as the best use of their time. So they're going to let somebody else do that. And then like they'll pick it up if they feel like they need to. But that's why I think a lot of people inhabit that mindset. A little league meta discussion.